SS Catala, which was a Canadian cargo passenger steamship that was turned into a floating restaurant, ran aground by a storm on the Washington coast on New Year's Day in the year 1965. And this Ford Fairlane 500 could be had down at your local Ford dealer. But before getting into all of it, if this is your first time stopping by, welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel that does mini documentaries on your favorite cars from the past. We do the history, specs, design with engine episodes peppered in. If any of that sounds of interest to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. Real quick before diving in deep on this one, Crankshaft, which is a quarterly automotive publication that features everything automotive. I was interviewed, which will be featured in that publication. So if you want to check out what I said in the interview, be sure to grab the February issue of Crankshaft magazine. 1965 Ford model lineup. These aren't in any particular order. Falcon, Mustang, Thunderbird, Econoline series. The full-size cars were broken down into Custom, Fairlane, and Galaxy was at the top. Ford also built a car that bridged the gap between truck and car called the Ranchero, and they also offered trucks from half-ton all the way up to the big commercial. Ford would offer the Fairlane in the American market from 1955 through 1970, offered in 7 generations. 1965 falls in the 4th generation, which was produced 1962, 63, 64, and 65. It could be had as a 2-door sedan, 4-door sedan, 2-door hardtop, and 4-door wagon. Fairlane could be had in 2 different trim levels. You had the base Fairlane trim and the Fairlane 500, which the 500 came standard with full carpeting, heat and defrost, front seat belt, electric windshield wipers, as well as other amenities listed here. The Fairlane 500 could also be had in 15 different diamond luster enamel colors, as well as 5 cloth vinyl interior trims. Show of hands, who else misses the days when one could get different interior colors? I know I do. 1965 did see a bit of a redesign, so let's compare 64 on top, 65 on the bottom, starting in the front. Let's talk about the similarities before we talk about the differences. The windshield profile looks the same. Both have windshield wipers that follow. Both the mirrors are circular, but it looks like the 64 is slightly different than the 65, but they're located in roughly the same spot. Hood ornaments are different. The 64 doesn't really look like it really has a hood ornament. It looks like it has front hood trim. There's a trim piece there. And the 65 has a hood ornament. The hoods are completely different profiles. The grills are different, as well as how the headlights are mounted in the front fascia. Totally different bumpers, but the turn signal placement is roughly the same place. If you look at these, they both have totally different sheet metal profiles as well. The 64 also has fender markers that the 65 doesn't have. Moving to the side profile. Let's start with the roof profile and work our way down. Notice the roof profiles are the same, but there's bright trim on the sail panel where there isn't bright trim on the sail panel on the 65. Instead, there is I think it says Sport Coupe. There's writing on the sail panel instead of having that trim piece. Moving to the front, as you can see, the windshield is the same angle. It's probably the same windshield. Vent windows look to be about the same. The rear quarter window, and I think it's this angle, it looks like it's a little bit different shaped, but I think it might be the angle. Moving to the sheet metal, just look at how much different the sheet metal profile is between these two cars. There's a lot of body sculpted lines in the 65 that aren't apparent on the 64, but the 64 has different bright trim than the 65 does. The wheel openings differ as well. They look to be flared on the 64 versus they are rolled on the 65. Both the front and rear are rolled, whereas both the front and rear are flared on the 64. The 65 also has a rocker trim piece that the 64 doesn't have. Moving aft, 2 totally different rear profiles, but upon further examination, the 64 does have the script on the sail panel as well. The 65 just doesn't have that trim piece. The rear back glass looks to be about the same. Both of them have the trim that goes around the windshield in the back. The trunk profiles are totally different. The rear brake lights are circular on the 64 versus more rectangular on the 65. Bumpers are both different. Jumping inside to take a better look at the dash and interior situation, which you've guessed it, both are different. The 64 has 3 circular gauge pods that sit directly in front of the driver, whereas the 65 has just a long ribbon style speedometer with rectangular gauges below it and idiot lights. Warning lights just below it. Which one do you like better? Let's talk specs. 198.4 inches long, 73.8 inches wide. It rides a wheelbase of 116 inches. It weighs 2,877 pounds. Price $2,180, which would be equivalent to you spending $21,841.87 in the year 2024. And that was for the basement model 6-cylinder offering. Total 1965 Ford Fairlane production was 223,952 units, of which total Fairlane 500 two-door hardtop was 41,405 units. Moving on to engine, starting out in the proverbial basement with a 200 cubic inch inline overhead valve 6, 3.3 liters. It was good for 120 horsepower at 4,400 RPM, up to 190 pound-feet or 258 newton meters at 2,400 RPM. The bore and stroke sizes, they might be rounded. Bore 3.7 inches and a stroke of 3.1 inches. Compression 9.2 to 1. When backed with a 3-speed manual transmission, 0 to 60 could be had in about 13 seconds with a theoretical top speed of 95 miles per hour while achieving an average. So this isn't the lowest gas mileage. This isn't the highest gas mileage. This is average. 14 to 18 miles to the gallon. Moving on to the first V8 option. 289 cubic inch displacement, V8, 4.7 liters. It could be had in 3 different flavors, 200, 225, and the Hypo that produced 271 horsepower at 4,400 RPM. It could make up to 312 pound-feet or 423 newton meters around 2,400 RPM with a bore of 4 inches and a stroke of 2.9 inches. Compression was 9.3 to 1 with 5 main bearings. When backed with the Hypo 271 horsepower version, backed with a 4-speed manual transmission, 0 to 60 could be had in 6.4 seconds, which is impressive. If you've been looking for a really nice, stellar example of a 1965 Ford Fairlane 500, I know a place that this car, our featured car, is currently for sale at Classic Auto Mall, Morgantown, Pennsylvania, where they got this car and 1,000 other cars currently for sale. And get this, anybody can go peruse their inventory, whether that's online or in person. And going in person is definitely worth it, because I swear, when you walk through the front doors for the very first time, you can hear angels sing. 4 hours of operation, directions, and to get the full scoop on this very car, be sure to click the link below after the show. Let's talk styling on this car. Notice how the turn signal indicators are recessed inside the bumper. This knows how far recessed they are. Also check out the bumper profile. Very clean. And bevels down, comes out here, protrudes. No bumperettes and or overriders, very clean design. Headlight bezels. The grille, Ford is displayed in block formation on the front of the hood. There is a center line that goes up towards the Ford mascot and or hood ornament. And the center line goes back towards the single piece curved windshield. Coming around to the side, so just check out all of the different lines in the sheet metal. How this part protrudes out. The wheel wells are just kind of bent in. They're not really rolled in. This one is sitting on aftermarket Krager wheels. This one's riding on P215 65 R15 tires. It's got 289 badging right on the front fender. It does have rocker trim. Side mirror placement right here. Also take a gander at how that is designed. This car does have drip rails that run almost like a rain dam here in the front and then run the cabin area. So check out how these fenders peak up. Hood profile. Has an external cowl vent with windshield wipers that follow. So check this out. It's got this little stub of a fin, if that's what you want to call it. Very formal looking roof. Sports coupe. Brake lights with bullseye. Take a look at all of the bright work. Gas filler in the center. Massive gas door. Key on top to get in the trunk. So this one's spring loaded. You push the button and the door pops out at you. This door has a nice quality feel to it. It's painted up here, and this is metal. Down here feels like a vinyl material. Also, take stock at all of the different colors, designs, textures going on. There is a light so they can see you with your door open when it's parked on the street. Armrest, door handle to get out. Window crank for the big window, which operates like this. And it's all framed out. Has a vent window here. Joystick style, if you want to call it that. Side mirror. Coming down inside the pedal box down here, underneath the floor mat is the high beam switch, brake, gas pedal. Take a look at the bright work that accents the bottom of the center console area. Take a gander at this interior. Nice quality shut to that. Here is what over the hood would look like. Here's what first person over the hood would look like. On to the button switches and knobs, starting on the left and moving right. Headlights, windshield wiper, warning light, gasoline gauge, odometer, coolant temperature, another warning light, right air footwell vent, which is super nice because it takes all the heat coming from the firewall that nobody tells you about, and it replaces it with cold air from outside. Key, cigarette lighter, left turn signal indicator, 120 mile per hour speedometer, right turn signal indicator, AM radio, heat and defrost settings, as well as fan blower speed. This one has select air conditioning, Sony aftermarket radio, drive modes read, park, reverse, neutral, drive second, drive first, and low. Up above there are sun visors, and they are on the slender side. Rear view mirror cut out here for the daytime, nighttime rear view mirror, and that's what the other sun visor would look like with them both in place. Ashtray right there. On to the glove box test. Here's our test subject. Here's my hand for reference. My hand is 7.5 inches long, just to give you a scale of how big this camera is. It's going in the glove box here. It's getting stuck on the hot shoe, so it does not fit in the glove box. But despite that, it's still a pretty big, pretty good sized glove box, all things considered. You also have another storage place but it doesn't have a key or a lock. You can't lock it, which is this center console right here. And it's also fairly big. It tapers. And the camera almost fits in there, but it won't shut 100%. Almost, though. If I took it apart, it would totally fit. Getting in the rear, just fold the seat forward like so, which allows that much access into the rear compartment. So here's what the front looks like from the back. Let's take a quick gander at the greenhouse, or the pillar to glass ratio, which is nice and airy in this car. I think it helps that the sunliner, the headliner is white, and it has this really nice two-tone blue interior in this car. And this is what visibility looks like out the back from the back seat. It does have a rear parcel shelf with aftermarket radio speakers. Creature Comforts has these coat hooks. There's a coat hook there, dome lights in center, and another coat hook over here. The windows do go down back here via these window cranks, and they operate like this. How cool. There's a lot of engineering that went into these older cars that people don't really pay attention to anymore. Nowadays, everything's just boring, straight up, straight down. Does have an armrest as well as ashtray. Everything found on the driver's side is also found on the passenger side. Window crank and armrest ashtray combo. Let's talk about the seat back profile. Ford seats are weird. It's like they dip down significantly back here in the rear, and then it's upright. So it kind of feels like you're taking a power poop. My knee situation. I'm 6'2", full grown 25 adult. I have negative knee space. The seat would be in this position that it would be in if I was driving the car. The seats do concave in the center, so I guess if you sat like a woman and sat up a little bit with your knees close together, it could probably work in a pinch. Taking a real quick gander under the hood, 12-volt battery, 289 cubic inch displacement V8 nestled in the engine bay of this Ford Fairlane 500. This one has an air conditioning compressor, which looks like it could be factory. Windshield washer bag mounted on the driver's side as well. Here is a better look at that air conditioning compressor. Just below it, power steering pump, windshield washer bag. This one has a 2-reservoir brake master cylinder, but it doesn't appear to have a power booster attached to it. Moving to the other side, alternator. Notice the coil is just mounted right there in the front. Distributor is also in the front. Solenoid mounted to the inner fender on the passenger side. On the positive side, great 1 year only Ford body design. Tons of different engines to choose from. Loads of different colors to choose from as well. Against it, just know that these are unit body constructed, so the frame and the chassis are one single unit, which isn't a bad thing, but water likes to collect and rust from the inside out. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. 2 scenarios today, and these may or may not be fair, and they're not really in the same price point maybe, but which one would you rather have? 1965 Plymouth Belvedere, or 1965 Ford Fairlane 500, or 1965 Studebaker Daytona? I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to the second scenario, 1965 AMC Marlin, or 1965 Ford Fairlane 500, or 1965 Chevy Bel Air. Once again, gonna leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to get both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of it. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, shoot me a comment in the comment section below or send me an email at what_its_like@yahoo.com. Thanks again for everything that you guys bring in the comment section, and until next time, toodaloo! If you've made it this far, congratulations, you've made it to the after show. This part of the video doesn't have any sound or commentary, but you can put whatever music you would wish in the background. See this car like you've never saw it before. Enjoy.